So that whole self piece might take a weekend. It might take, and there's a lot more we would do to uncover that and go through all that. The same thing when you start talking about the peer group. You know, it's what we did with Code 5 and how we look at the peers and why are people doing certain things. And again, we create other characters. It's again what you would do when you're talking about the community, because that's the huge piece, the community. So what does this community really look like? Yeah, we did little snips of it today, but what does that community look like? What's going on in that community? And where are the opportunities for creation and for jobs in that community? That's what the whole series of workshops would be. It would have a lot of other parts of it, of course, in there. But again, like I said, it's not a one thing you would do in, what, an hour and 15 minutes now? You couldn't possibly do it in that. So I don't want anyone to think that this was it. This is just to give you snippets. But it leads these workshops along with some of the other professionals that will come into the play in regards to creating businesses and doing all the business development. Again, these type of workshops all over this period of anywhere from a year to 18 months would lead to what Janice is going to share with us right now for a quick moment. And Janice is going to ask, oh, I don't know if I can get on the internet. They said there's a new way to get on it. I had trouble. Can you, I'll try while you talk.
Okay. So.
Oh,
I just was going to say,
all right.
Okay, so my name is Janice. And I founded about 2 years ago an organization called Una Nueva Vida, and in English that means a new life. So we were thinking about the name, and we wanted to have a name that sort of, you know, set opportunity for a better future. And we created an organization, it's a nonprofit organization that focuses on energy and education. What we do is that we create solar panels that we make at very low cost in the Dominican Republic, and then we donate them to schools. So in the Dominican Republic, there's a crisis with education. The Dominican government doesn't really give the amount of money, doesn't put it towards education that it's supposed to. There have actually been like campaigns going on for a really long time to get the 4%. And finally, the government did say that they would do it, but it hasn't actually been implemented yet. So 4% of GDP is actually supposed to go to education in the Dominican Republic, public education, every year, at least 4%, and it doesn't happen. It's never happened before. So this is something that's by law, right, in the Constitution, and isn't followed. A lot of the schools in the Dominican Republic have very little resources. Some students study under trees, etc. And so we were thinking, well, how can we help the community, and how can we help education by targeting one of their biggest problems, right? We can't, you know, completely fix every school and give a bunch of money because we don't have that, but what can we do? And so we were thinking about ways to help, and one of the way that we came up with was, well, a lot of the schools spend a lot of money on energy. And they spend a lot of money on energy because the power grid system is unreliable. So the light will go in the middle of the day, you won't have energy for the entire day. And how can you teach students if you don't have energy or light in the classrooms? So a lot of schools spend their money on generators to keep the power on during the school day. So we thought, well, if we could come up with a low-cost energy system that we could donate to the schools, and the schools could save some of that money and use it for things like books, etc. So what we do is that we donate low-cost solar panels to the schools, and in turn the schools have a reliable energy source that's also good for the environment, and that also allows them to save a lot of the money that they would normally spend on generators. In turn, they give us a fraction of those savings so that we can provide scholarships for young kids that usually can't afford to go to school. And a lot of times kids can't go to school for things like they don't have a notebook or they don't have the uniform that's required. So we're doing that. Amongst other projects that we have this summer, we're putting together an institute teaching kids actually how to create the solar panels themselves. Because the idea is there's a great need, and the need is power, right? There's a a reliable power source. And right now, I think our energy system is actually, for the most part, owned by people in Spain. And like every 10 years, there's like this renewed contract, and it's kind of ridiculous. And the government makes a whole bunch of money off of it, and the people suffer. So that's what we've been doing, and we also have been donating computers. And a donation to one school costs all of $1,200, so it's really inexpensive. And the way that we're also helping the community in terms of like jobs is that we're teaching kids how to create solar panels so that hopefully they'll be able to in the future have their own businesses and make their own money from the technological education that they're receiving through us.
Talk a little more about making their own solar panels. Just add a little bit of word to that. I'd like to hear what you're talking about.
So we have a location, and we were working with mechanics and people who were helping. So my friend Andres, who I went to Wesleyan with, he's the one who came up with the design of the solar panel. When I was in the Dominican Republic, he was doing that here. So I was setting things up there, and he was working on the design here. And then he switched. So he's been out there for the past year, and I've been working from here. And he's been working with about 3 interns who are also students who go to the school where we made the donation. And he's taught them how to make the solar panels and how to install them. So our idea is that if we can teach enough kids, we can teach enough people how to do this stuff, then they can, in the future have their own businesses and their own way of tackling a social issue and also making money for themselves.
Where do you get the materials to make solar panels?
All the material comes from over there. And it's cheap, and it's much cheaper because it's over there. At first, we were shipping things from here, but that was really costly. So then we started making them over there, and we're working with a young man by the name of Darwin, who's 23, and he's designed like little solar chips for cell phones. And so he was like on the news and stuff like that. We connected with him, and he's been helping us a lot. So right now, a lot of what we do is like volunteer based. We have a lot of people working for us. We're very small, working for us for free. But we're making an impact, even if it's only like a few kids at a time, one school at a time, and looking for like more resources to expand. And hopefully in the next 2 years while I'm in Ethiopia, we'll be able to start something up there with the school that I'll be working with. So I do have a website. Were you able to?
So what's going to happen is we'll talk for a few more minutes, Q&A and stuff like that, and Erica's getting her laptop. It will work in here because she was just set up yesterday. There's a whole new way we have to go online. And so we'll show your website before we leave today.
Okay.
All right? So do you have questions for her? Yes, please ask.
How financially self-sufficient is your operation?
So that's the struggle for us. The struggle for us is financing what we do because it's been low cost. A lot of what we've done has come out of pocket. And it hasn't been like a huge struggle because we've been working with like one school at a time. But right now we're applying for grants. We're applying for a grant that will hopefully, if we get it, we'll get about $80,000 for the next 2 years, which will allow us to employ a lot of people in the Dominican Republic, which is something that I'm really excited about. So hopefully that'll work out.
Who are your partners that are helping with money?
We have yet to develop a good board, so that's in the works.
Do you see this as a business possibility?
The nonprofit itself, we don't want it to be a business, but we want to connect with students and people who would like to take what they learn from from the skills that we teach them in order for them to create their own businesses so that hopefully in the future there is competition and lower cost energy sources and that are reliable.
So are the materials donated, or do you have to buy for the solar panels?
We buy them.
And how many schools have benefited?
Right now we're working with one school and we're working with another one. Yeah. So we've only been up for 2 years, and we've done a full donation to one school. It has the installation and like the computers, so we donated 10 computers, and they have, I can show you the video, because they have videos.
Are you able to document then how the saving of the money from heating, and how they're actually using it for educational purposes? Will you be able to document that?
Yes, yes, we're definitely documenting all of that, because it's stuff that we need in order to get more funding, to get
Absolutely,
funding.
absolutely.
Right.